السلام عليكم ورحمة الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream. Whoa, where did you get these? Candles with the name of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Habib. Where did you get these?
One of my family members,
he makes these. Is it? I wonder if it's controversial. You know, fire and the Prophet's name and Allah's name should never go together. Oh, this is beautiful. See, I like this. I might not use it, but it's very, very pretty. Well done. Who is this? Makes this your Yahya? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a warm Tuesday in which we will get to, subhanAllah, we will get to the Tabi'een school shooting, which was another disgusting display of Israel shooting the Palestinian, shooting themselves in the foot and shooting their image in the foot across the world. And they're not even realize they're doing it. Like, they don't even realize they're literally destroying their whole image. They're destroying everything about themselves. People in the world do not like you anymore because of what you're doing. It's just, that's how simple it is. Just like people pretty much didn't mind the Germans until they tried to go to war with the... Well, World War I was just alliances. It's sort of stupid how World War I came about. But World War I, it's alliances. You can't figure out, like, all right, what's the real problem? No, nothing. It's just alliances. That's just how it was, right? Your tribe and my tribe, and then one guy from your tribe hit one guy from my tribe. Now the whole tribe's got to get involved. It was a huge war that there was no set ideology that was at the core of it that was a problem. World War II was the opposite. Germans, you act that way in World War II. Now the whole world doesn't like you, right? Now Germany stops acting like that for almost 100 years now, and now the world is okay with you, right? You make it to the finals in every soccer tournament. You win some and you lose some, and that's it. You make nice cars. You make decent shoes. That's it, right? But Israel now, you better off, the way that you are, stay out of the spotlight as much as you can. But here you go with their over 100 dead. Over 100 in school shootings. In this school bombing. And they claimed that there were Hamas operatives underneath it. Well, if your intel is so good, then why didn't you stop October 7th? That's the question you're going to be always asked. But at this point, on the first day, they had counted 93 adults, 11 kids, 6 women. All right. And the pictures coming out of there were just a disaster. And this kicked off a new round of calls for ceasefire. It's just words. You don't have any faith in any of it, and it's just you're reading and you're the object of history. You're not the subjects of history. You're just the objects of history, and it's frustrating to see, and it's frustrating to read. Let's read something from Usul today to begin. It's a big shift, but as you know, this live stream, we try to read something from Usul. We read from Tafsir. We read from Masail Fiqhiyya, and then we also go into the current affairs, which unfortunately, again, the current affairs, what is there to read? It's literally, they did this and there is no response. They did X, no one responded. That's it. There's nothing to respond except to look at the pictures of kids. Literally, I had to blur one picture out because the brain of the girl was showing. It was just like the skull was almost like, because, the skull is almost like plate tectonics. If you take one out, the whole skull becomes soft again and moves around. Literally, you could, and clearly she bled out because you could, like a cartoon, astaghfirullah al-azim. It's a little girl. A guy's holding a little girl, and you could see her brain from the picture. I put it on Twitter, and I probably blurred it 98%. Right in the first second, you could see it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you from my saved photos because I didn't look. You can't believe this. You cannot believe what you're seeing when you look at this. It's a guy holding his little daughter, and you could literally see through her brain. Can you see that? Do they think this is going nowhere? Or it's just no. This stuff floats in the air, and one day it floats in your debit, and one day it's gonna come crashing down on you as a nation, and may hit you, may hit your innocent kids, your innocent grandkids, but you caused it, right? If I start a feud with the Russian mafia, my family start a feud with the Russian mafia, they're going to come back. There's just a matter of time. Are you guys old enough to see this? Yeah. You can get nightmares. He's getting nightmares. We have a young slappy eyes, I call them, volunteers, you know. You see that? I got a volunteer from Bahrain, another one here from New Jersey. It's on my Twitter account. In the first second, you can barely see a little because we couldn't blur the whole thing out. Zabe, let's move over to Umrah for youth this year. Sign up. Can you stick the link in the chat, Zabe? Hey, Hamza, did you do your job? You have one job every time you come here. Did you do it? Yeah. You have one job. Al-Muhkam wal-Mutashabih. Today we study what does Allah's word mean. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran. Early on in Surah Al-Imran, هو الذي أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن الكتاب. He is the one who revealed unto you the book. From it are clear and decisive verses. They are the foundations, the source of the book. Kitab means the source and the foundation. The of something is the source and the foundation. Qura is one of the words of Mecca. It is said to be that because it possesses the Kaaba, but also they say that the origin of the earth, when the first moment the earth was created, the first place that was created was Mecca, and then expanded from there. The creation happened from there. So Allah could have created all of it at once, right? It's possible. But He chose to create Mecca, and then from there, all the other. That's a theory. That's not a direct nuss of why it's called Qura. Keep in mind, there are narrations and sayings that may not be true, but it's said. I'm just telling you what's been said. The other thing that's been said is that what's the source of all human life and existence is order and law and belief. That's the source of it all. So where is the source of that? Mecca, of course. So that's one reason it's called Qura. Egypt is called Dunya. Why is that? That's because there was a great drought for 7 years. Iraq, Libya, Sudan, the lands of Palestine now, right? The holy lands there, Quds, Jerusalem, all these places, Syria, some people say as far into Persia even, Iraq, all these places suffered drought, and they only survived because of Prophet Yusuf's dream, who took over and he said, store all 1/2 of everything. You have 2 cows, give me 1 cow. We buy from you, the government. We'll buy from you 1 cow, you keep 1 cow. We'll raise that cow over here. All right, in our lands, in our grounds. And he grew that and he developed that for 7 years. Then and he bought a person's farm. He'd come up to him and say, the produce of this farm, we'll buy it from you. But it's almost like forced buying. You have to, because we're going to give you a fair deal. And only for 7 years, not permanently. So then after the good 7 years passed, then the 7 years of drought came. And Egypt is the one that had all the food, had all the animals. So they became called Dunya because they're the source of life. Otherwise, all those people would have died. Now, Egypt has water too. Don't forget that. So it's a drought. So when I have a drought and you give me a lamb, that doesn't benefit me. a cow, I need water. Well, Egypt has tons of water. And back in those days, you drank right out of a river. See, the Prophet ﷺ said, a hadith many people don't know, that the good of this world is gone and nothing's left except the dregs. We think that we're living up so well. How are we living so well when we all lose our hair, got crooked teeth, can't see, can't wake up in the morning, right? That's how we are, and that's how we are these days. Everyone is messed up, and we think we have the greatest pleasure of the world. But back in the day, people were much more healthy, mentally healthy. Their skin was better, their hair was better, their teeth were better, their eyes were better because they lived a natural life. And anytime you see a stream, you just drink from it. Today we have too much governance. You know, like if you wanted to get away from the world back in the old days, you just pack your bags, get a knife, right? And you move, right? You live wherever you want, build whatever you want, drink, live by a stream, dig a well. No one's going to stop you. Today you dig a well, who knows what's going to come and ask for a permit, right? You want to build a shed. You know, I love this meme where it says that what are those, that political ideology? It's like a political idea. The political ideology doesn't want the government involved at all, right? And the perception of them is that we don't want government involved. We want to be able to basically own nuclear bombs if I want to. But the actual reality is the guy just wants to build a shed in his backyard, right? Libertarians, yeah, that's what it is. Sorry, I forgot that. This guy wants to build a shed in his backyard, right? And he's got to stand in front of a council of other people in the town to get approval. What? It's my land. But then all this stuff happens for a reason, and sometimes there's, yeah.
My dad wanted to build a bike shed like right in our garden. So it was his land, and he wanted to do it, but he still needed permission from the government and the compound.
It's ridiculous.
To build it in the first place.
It's ridiculous. So back in the old days, life was good. And Kitab is the source of all the rulings of the book. So that's what Kitab means. The source of all the rulings are the ayat that are called muhkamat. And muhkam refers to something that is decisive. It's literally telling you something, right? It's decisive. Wa ukharu, Allah is telling us, other ayat are mutashabihaat. Mutashabih, we don't know what it means. We may never know what it means. And that's Allah showing us His power over us. We don't have to understand everything He says. And we may be of a level of iman and intellect and understanding of Arabic that is low, and it went over our heads. It's very possible. There are some ayat we'll never ever have a certainty of knowledge of what it is, and those are the huruf al-muqatta'at. Alif, lam, mim. So we know that they're letters, but why are they there? What do they mean? What is the benefit of reciting Alif Lam Mim? Could there possibly be a spiritual benefit to that? Allah knows best. Because we know that words have impacts on life. The words that we utter just like you take a pill, your body feels better. You could take a set of pills, could transform a family. If there's a dad who's a little bit mentally off, he takes some mental health pills or whatever. Psychiatrist gives him some pills, he's better. The whole family improves, right? So we know that about little pieces of pills. So words, we know, have impacts. If you learn the right words, you can be a great salesman. If you learn the right words, you could be a great husband. So words have a lot of... Now imagine when the word comes from Allah. So we know for sure there's a benefit to it. But we just don't know what the benefit is. And we don't know exactly what the meaning is. Many scholars and Tabi'een have speculated as to the meaning. For example, they said, Alif Lam Mim, Allah Latif Majid. All right, Zayd, we can switch back and forth to the... or find a way to keep it centered and put the Umrah in the little corner here. You see that? Yeah, put the Umrah in the little corner, but put the picture centered. Yeah. So that the Instagrammers can see. Instagrammers, Umrah for Youth with Sheikh Noah Saunders. You need to sign up. You need to sign up for this. We're working hard, real hard, on promoting this Umrah. And it's going to be a great trip. It's going to be a great Umrah for Youth again. Every year it's a success. This is what, our third? Let's see how many. Huh? This is our third Umrah for youth. There you go, Zabe. Well done.
The one in January, was it the second or first?
Second. This is the third. Yeah. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب. Oh, متشابه. The آيات المتشابهات. We know for sure ألف لام ميم is متشابه. المتشابه, nobody should devote excess amounts of time to it or much amount of time to it, because at the end of the day, Allahu A'lam, and definitely for sure in this era that we're living in, there should be no division amongst the Ummah over Mutashabihaat. I mean, look at what's actually happening in life. And there is a group of people in every generation who have their priorities off, and they go deep into these Mutashabihat, and they establish their aqidah based on Mutashabihat. Don't be amongst them. The Prophet ﷺ said, Hadith, حدثنا صحيح مسلم عبد الله بن مسلم بن قعنب حدثنا يزيد بن إبراهيم التستري عن عبد الله بن أبي مليكة عن القاسم بن محمد. قاسم ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. So Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. Qasim would be Muhammad. If Muhammad is the brother of Aisha, Qasim would be what? The nephew of Aisha. So he narrates from Aisha. قالت تلا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات فما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ. As for those people who have in their heart some crookedness, there's something wrong with his heart. He has a spiritual problem. The Prophet didn't say he's ignorant. The Prophet didn't say he made a mistake. The Prophet brought the root of the matter to his heart. Okay? Now, there could be a scholar, a righteous person, who makes a mistake about the mutashabihat, but it would be something that he gave a small amount of his attention to, and he made a mistake. No problem there. But what the ayah says here, these people have crookedness in their heart. What do they do? فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ. They're always talking about the mutashabih. Why are you always talking about something that's unclear to us all? Because of a sickness in the heart. Ibtigha al-fitna. They like division. They like to divide up the ummah. They like fitna. Fitna here means division. And fitna here means confusion. Fitna can have a lot of words. Could mean killing, could mean division, could be confusion. وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِهِ. And they really want to know, and they're not satisfied. Just say Allah knows best. Khalas. Even the mu'awwilin, the people who make ta'wil and say, well, it seems yadullahi ma'al jama'ah. Generally it means Allah is with the group. The blessing of God is with the group. The hand of Allah is with the jama'ah. They say the blessing of Allah is with the group. Maybe. This is dhanni. This is ijtihad. Could be. But in general, there is a general agreement that that general verse refers to that. Right? Last third of the night, Allah comes down to the lowest heavens. In general, we all know what it means. Allah, you're very close to Allah in the last third of the night. You don't need to ask and decipher into how does Allah come down? What is the nature of His coming down? And in our aqidah, you have to negate what is the muhkam verses, what the established verses, you have to negate that. All of what I'm saying and all of what I said about the bid'ah all has the same theme, is that Muslims have to unify on what is muhkam and recognize where there's differences and recognize what we'll never know. Everyone who says anything about the mutashabih must said, Allah knows best. We really don't know exactly what the truth is. We may know exactly what the truth is not. We definitely know what it is not based on the muhkam. The muhkam is the decisive. So the vague or the unclear is interpreted vis-a-vis what's clear, not the other way around. Uga, you want to say something?
I was going to ask about an example of modern religious
Of what?
of an example of like the mutashabihat that people obsess over, but then you gave the two examples that the group that does it.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, not everyone who has such who speaks about the mutashabih is going to be correct, and there could be a forgivable mistake. But the question is, who is following up on it? Because what the Prophet is about to tell us here is to warn us from that. And the reason we should be warned about that is we as Muslims should never have dividing lines on matters we all agree nobody will 100% know. Nor differences in fiqh, differences in bid'ah, an understanding of what a bid'ah is and isn't. This is shaitan is tricking us all in dividing our community and our ummah on those lines when we have an agreement on 90% of everything. And hypothetically, we didn't even have, let's say we had an agreement on 10%. Well, when the world has conspired to blow your brains out, literally blow your brains out, as we showed that footage of that girl, which we can't put up here. That probably people would be traumatized for life if you saw it. You're going to be traumatized for life? Huh? Better not be.
It's sad though.
I mean, the brain is surrounded by all sorts of fluids. That fluid all drained out.
You couldn't see anything.
You could see directly to the brain and some pink around it. The world's blown our brains out. It just seems completely contrary to any common sense, to any Islamic ethic, to continue this. Now, what happens when there are some groups that persist on tabdi' and takfir and warn against you and all that stuff? Do it. Do it. I'm not going to, you can't fight it back. Khalas. You're wasting your time. You're being pulled down. That's equally from shaitan. Being pulled down. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Only Allah knows its ta'wil, its true meaning. So what do we mean by that? Only Allah knows with the absolute knowledge. Allah's knowledge is absolute. But scholars can know it, but recognizing that is speculative, right? Like I know ulama may say that, yeah, this is what it means. Yes, but he'll tell you with dhann, with ijtihad, right? With an effort to understand that could possibly be wrong, right? But we may feel like it's 99% true. Correct. We go with it. But recognizing that it's by dhann. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. And those with certain knowledge, they say, آمَنَّ بِي كُلُّ مِنْ عِنْدِ رَبِّنَا. It's all from our Lord and we believe in it. Whatever Allah meant by it is what we believe. That's what Imam al-Shafi'i says about such matters. So when we as Muslims have to elevate our discourse to realize that shaitan tries to divide us up and divide up religious people and pious people by mutashabihaat. First and foremost. وَمَا يَذْكُرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. And no one ponders this except those who have a core in their hearts. قالت, Sayyidah Aisha says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, إذا رأيتم الذين يتبعون ما تشابه منه. If you see the people, this is a warning of the Prophet to his ummah, if you see the people that keep following up, all they talk about is mutashabihat, they constantly want to talk about mutashabih, those are the ones whom Allah named, so be careful from them. They cause fitna. They pull us down into these debates, whereas we should be focused on what's right in front of our own faces and our brothers and sisters dying, and what can we do about it? And well, first thing, we can care. Second thing is you can talk. And when a bunch of people care and talk, things change. That's really the point here. Like what is a beach? I've always given this example. What is a beach? It consists of probably, I don't know, what do you think, 1 billion grains of sand, depending how big the beach is. But it produces an amazing result, right? A gorgeous beach. So between the rocks being eroded over time and also the shore, the sea, the waves kicking up sand from within the ocean. That's the combination of what a beach is. Most likely it's the shores kicked up the sand. Why don't you look up how beaches are formed? But that's all it is. So we are, if you feel like a grain of sand, yeah, that's fine. But we need 1 billion of us to care and take some kind of action, right? Have some concern and talk. You don't ever know what's going to happen, what's going to build, one thing after another. Soon, eventually, I think the Democratic Party is the party that's not going to be pro-Israel. full force. I mean, they're saying words that would indicate that they need to quell down their love of Israel. They've chosen that route, right? Unfortunately, they chose other routes too that make it impossible for us to fully support them. And the right is the full-on Israel genocide party. We know that for sure. Full-on, 100%. Okay, so now this is something good for you to learn when you recite the Quran. Let's talk about what did Al-Imam Nawawi say about this hadith. Okay. He first quotes Al-Ghazali. قال الغزالي في المستصفى. Remember Imam Nawawi, when he wrote Sharh Sahih Muslim, he was young. He hardly puts his own words in there. He's always quoting, and sometimes brings you a whole passage. This is very beneficial. Number one source of his quotation is Qadi Iyad. It's as if he had the blank paper and he had Qadi Iyad open in front of him. Every time. So he drew from his knowledge, especially of the chains of transmission, all that. And then it's as if like when he didn't know something, he went to Qadi Iyad. And he says, قال القاضي. He always cites Qadi Iyad. Qadi Iyad is the Maliki from Morocco who wrote an amazing sharh of Sahih Muslim. Explanation of the Quran tends to be called a tafsir. Explanation of hadith tends to be called a sharh. Okay. وقال الغزالي في المستصفى. Imam al-Ghazali wrote a book on usul, which is one of the best books on usul, called Al-Mustasfa. إذا لم يرد توقيف في تفسيره فينبغي أن يفسر بما يعرفه أهل اللغة. If there is not a tafsir for a verse, we go to its language. In other words, if the Prophet didn't explain it, in the sense that the meaning of the verse is tawqifi now, this is what it means because the Prophet said so. If there isn't such a verse, or other verses of the Quran can explain it. So he says, you have to stop at what the people of language says. وَتَنَاسُبُ اللَّفْظِ مِنْ حَيْثُ الْوَضْعِ. And what is appropriate in terms of that word related to the context. Because a word can have multiple meanings. It's based on the context, you know what it is, right? وَلَا يُنَاسِبُهُ قول من قال المتشابه الحروف المقطعة في أوائل السور فقط. No, that's not right. It's not right for those who say the mutashabih is only the muqatta'at. Alif lam mim, alif lam ra, kaf ha ya ain sad yasin qaf nun sad. That's not the only mutashabih. So he says that's not right. ولا قولهم. Ghazali is telling you what it's not. المحكم ما يعرفه الراسخون في العلم والمتشابه من فرد الله تعالى بعلمه. It's also not right to say the muhkam is what the scholars know and the mutashabih is what Allah only knows. That's not correct either. He's giving you everything that's not correct. ولا قولهم, nor is it correct for them to the saying that the muhkam, the decisive verses, are threats and promises, halal and haram, whereas the mutashabih is stories and wisdoms. That's not true either. This is even worse. He says this is further off. بل الصحيح, the correct answer, أن المحكم يرجع إلى معنيين. What's so funny, guys?
The guy said, I want to ask you something.
You want to ask something? Okay, we're going to take your questions. All right, we'll take your questions in a bit. Let me just read this. I always want to read something from a turath, al-kutub al-turathiyya, the turathi book, so that you can learn something, right? Let's say, for example, you're a teenager in Homedale, New Jersey, or something like that. They never get exposed to this stuff, right? So we have to have little passages from turathi books, right, every once in a while, so that you could learn something. So today we're studying the difference between muhkam and mutashabih. Very important. Decisive verses and unknown verses. How could Allah send us a book and has things that are unknown? It's unknown because you're ignorant. That's why. You're the one speaking to you has so much more knowledge than you. And there is a wisdom why he kept it hidden. The wisdom why he kept it hidden is because it exposes those who have a sickness in their hearts. They keep plucking away at it. So it's a litmus test. The mutashabih is a litmus test. That's why Allah put them there. He put things there that we don't know and we cannot ever fully and absolutely know. We may have a theory about it, a dhanni ijtihadi speculation about it, but we'll never fully know. The reason is, by putting those verses there, Allah tells us, you will know the people who have certain knowledge, who have found strong foundation knowledge, and those whose hearts are crooked. Okay. So he says, المحكم يرجع إلى معنيين. The muhkam, it goes back to two meanings. Number one, المكشوف المعنى الذي لا يتطرق إليه إشكال واحتمال. That which the meaning is crystal clear. There's no discussion about it. Right? Like, for example, let's just take this as a visual. This mic here is crystal clear in front of your eyes. The contents of this cup is not. Now, the contents of this cup is up for theory, speculation. You know it's not going to be like high C. Is that company still in business?
I don't know.
Just sugar water and color. High C.
Oh, yeah.
You call it hick?
I call the hick one.
You called it hick? Oh, that is a fobby thing. Wow. It's called high C.
I didn't know that.
Well, when I was in school, that was a big deal that you have high C. And it's nothing but sugar water and color. You know, chances are 1% that no one's walk around with a coffee mug with high C in it, right? Chances are it's going to be coffee or tea, right? It's not going to be water. No one drinks water out of a mug like this. But nonetheless, you can speculate all you want. But you cannot know absolutely because you haven't seen it. You don't know it. So that's what he means here. The opposite of that is that which is crystal clear. لا يتطرق إليه إشكال. There is no discussion that this is a mic. Can't have a discussion on it. If you have a discussion on it, you're playing dumb. You part from this. If anyone here says this is not a mic, he's playing dumb, you're being stupid, and we're not talking to you anymore. You're out of the discussion. You're playing dumb. We call this in theology ashabul ahwa. Okay. We have plenty of that in our world today. In our world. I said it many times, transgenderism is the number one of these. Like, a guy is right in front of you. You know he's a guy. You cannot tell me he's not a guy, right? You are playing dumb. You're doing whatever you are, or you're ill. If you genuinely believe he's not a guy, you're ill. Okay. والمتشابه ما يتعارض فيه الاحتمال. المتشابه is that which could have different possibilities. So in that, it's the he's tucked in there dhanni texts, dhanni, which could have multiple possible meanings. We have to speculate as to which is which. Okay. And then there's the other branch of that is we definitely don't know what it is, like alif lam mim. والثاني, the second possible definition is المحكم من انتظم ترتيبه مفيدا إما ظاهرا وإما بتأويل. وأما المتشابه فالأسماء المشتركة كالقرء كالذي بيده عقدة النكاح كالمس. So the first one is that the mutashabih is that which is clear what it means. يترتب ترتيبه مفيدا, you know exactly what it means. But the mutashabih is a word that actually has two different meanings. Like the qur' in the Arabic language can mean the blood of menstruation or the period of purity. وَكَالَّذِي بِيَدِهِ عُقْدَةُ النِّكَاحِ, the one in whose hand is the knot of marriage. Is it, we're talking about the husband? Or are you talking about the wali? Right? Or are you talking about the woman herself? Could be different opinions on that. Well-mas, what is mas? Is it touching a woman? Is it, there's lems, the discussion on lems, the discussion on, lems here says, kal-lems, not mes. Wait a second, actually, kal-mesi? Yeah, it's kal-mes. What does it mean, a mess? Does it mean shaitan whispered to him? Does it mean shaitan possessed him? You don't know. فالأول متردد بين الحيض والطهر والثاني بين الولي والزوج والثالث بين الوطء والمس باليد. Okay, so he's not talking about mess to shaitan, he's talking about the touching of men. So mess could mean the male touching or male intercourse with a woman. So these words could have multiple meanings. قال ويطلق على ما ورد في صفات الله تعالى مما يوهم ظاهره الجهة والتشبيه ويحتاج إلى تأويل. And another example is the attributes of Allah Ta'ala which would indicate that he's like his creation in having limits, in having a direction, and having a location. We know Allah created all locations, and he didn't change before or after creation, so we cannot be in it would be irrationally impossible for Allah to be the creator and not change and yet be in a location. It's inconceivable. Okay. Hold on a second. You know why this is only pumping out warm air? Because it's on fan. That's why. So I just put it on cold. Okay. I guess just celebrate the guys and give them a reward, because I came in after this weekend and it wasn't blasting and wasting energy. So maybe I should praise the brothers for not. Yes.
Can I go to the toilet?
Yeah, go ahead. It's not class. You don't have to ask. Okay. He says, واختلف العلماء في الراسخين في العلم هل يعلمون تأويل المتشابه. Do the راسخين بالعلم, do they know the meaning of these mutashabih or not? Okay. And is والراسخون في العلم عاطفة أم لا? It says here, وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله والراسخون في العلم. So is no one knows its true meaning except Allah and the people who are firmly grounded in knowledge? Or no one knows its meaning except Allah, period. And this is waw al-isti'naf. Waw al-isti'naf means the waw that begins a new sentence. Now this is something you could learn. When you see waw in the Quran, firstly you have 19 possibilities. I'll just give you 3 of the most common ones. Number 1, qasam, an oath, wallahi. Number 2, atf, adding a list. لا يعلم تأويله إلا الله والراسخون في العلم. No one knows its meaning except Allah and those who have firm foundations in knowledge. Or isti'naf means literally instead of a period, they just put waw in front of the next sentence. In Arabic, they didn't have periods. So they put waw in front of the next sentence. So لا يعلم ولا يعلم تأويله إلا الله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله. No one knows its meaning except Allah, period. والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا. New sentence. Those who are firmly founded in knowledge, firmly grounded in knowledge, they say it's all from our Lord. We believe in it. So here it's unknown. It's up to both possibilities are there. Okay, يحتمل المعنيين. It could be واو العطف and واو الاستئناف. Right? Did you understand the 3 types of waw? You got it, Habib? You're going to Tarim. You go with that knowledge. You'll know that's 3 out of 19. 3 main ones. Waw al-qasam, waw al-atf, waw al-isti'naf. Isti'naf is essentially, it's replacing a period. It's telling you this is a new idea. It's not related to the one before that. Okay? ويكون الوقف على وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله, period. ثم يبتدئ قوله والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمن به. وكل واحد من القولين محتمل. So both of them are possible. It's possible that no one knows its meaning except Allah and those firmly founded in knowledge, period. Or no one knows its true meaning except Allah, period. And those who are firmly founded in knowledge say ... Both of them are possible. Okay. Well, nobody should get emotionally attached to an interpretation ever, and that's from the tricks of shaitan and jahl. You get emotionally attached to an interpretation. To what point? You can love it as much as you can. We love our madhahib, we love our shuyukh, but you don't have discord, division, or you separate the brothers accordingly. That would be a trick of Iblis. The whole point of today's session, Muhkam Mutashabih, yesterday on Bid'ah, the other day, is to show where there is room, and you can love an opinion all you want, but you cannot separate from your brothers. You definitely cannot have tashajur and should not have argumentation. It should no trick of Iblis is to get you on what is mukhtalaf fihi, what is differed upon. واختاره طوائف, different big groups had different opinions on this. والأصح الأول, and Imam al-Ghazali says what is more correct is the first one. وأن الراسخين أن الراسخين يعلمونه لأنه يبعد أن يخاطب الله عباده بما لا سبيل لأحد من الخلق إلى معرفته. And he says that what's most likely and most true is the first one. That is waw atf. That it is, no one knows its interpretation except Allah and those firmly grounded in knowledge. He says because it is far from the likelihood that Allah Ta'ala will speak to his slaves in a way that no one of the creation knows what it means. Right? That's not likely. That's yab'ud. It's far off. وَقَدْ اتَّفَقَ أَصْحَابُنَا, our companions, in other words, of this understanding, have agreed. There's a difference between ittifaq and ijma'. Ittifaq is usually within a set. So ittifaq, when we say fi ittifaq, it tends to mean, at least in the Maliki terminology of this, that within your madhab, they all agree. Ijma', the whole ummah. There's a difference between ijma' and ittifaq. And I want to hear a point says, وَأَنَّ الرَّاسِخِينَ إِنَّ وَأَنَّ لَكِنَّ وَكَأَنَّ وَلَيْتَ وَلَعَلَّ. Did you attend Arabic intensive? You guys know, Azab, did you attend Arabic intensive? Do you know إِنَّ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا? You need to memorize it. All right? It gives nasb to the mubtada, to the ism. Fatha or ya. And it leaves the khabar marfu'a. Inna wa anna wa lakinna wa ka'anna wa layta wa la'alla. Towards the end, yeah. Right? So once you know 4 charts, inna wa akhawatuha, kana wa akhawatuha, and then nawasib al-fi'l al-mudara, and jawazim al-fi'l al-mudara, so much of your life becomes easier. When you read, you understand why it's wa anna ar-rasikhina, not wa anna ar-rasikhuna. Okay. لأنه يبعد أن يخاطب الله عباده بما لا سبيل لأحد من الخلق إلى معرفته وقد اتفق أصحابنا وغيرهم من المحققين, those who are trying to get to the right answer, they agree على أنه يستحيل أن يتكلم الله, there's أن ناصب الفعل المضارع, أن يتكلم الله تعالى بما لا يفيد. They generally agree that Allah Ta'ala does not speak to his ibad with what does not have benefit. We have to understand. We have to come to understand. Now, it doesn't mean everyone will understand. Right? So maybe mutashabih to some, but it's fairly clear to others. وفي هذا الحديث التحذير من مخالطة أهل الزيغ, warning from the harms of people whose hearts are astray. وأهل البدع, those people of innovation. Which innovation is he talking about here? Mukhtalaf, different upon innovation like beads, and dhikr after salah, and dua after salah, and majalis dhikr. That's not the bid'ah he's talking about. Ahl al-Bidah fil aqeedah, those who went against clear qat'i verses of aqeedah for no reason. There's no explanation. That's what he means when the ulama talk about Ahl al-Bidah. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about the mukhtalaf fihi bid'ah. Mukhtalaf fihi. There's a lot of innovations. We all did, like multiple Jum'ahs in one city is an innovation. Multiple Jum'ahs in one mosque is a double innovation, right? How about multiple Jum'ahs in a non-mosque? Triple innovation. What is it? Optimum triple play, or what? Comcast triple play right there. Multiple Jum'ahs in a non-mosque. You just triple innovated. But some ulama held it to be necessary. A necessary innovation. I'll tell you what, for example. You go to one of these hospitals in the heavily populated Muslim area, and they may have a little musalla that the Muslims rent out every Friday. It's like a meditation room, but chapel. They reserve it, and they'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 Jum'ahs. That's how many Muslims are because it's such a small space, right? So number 1, multiple Jum'ahs in the same city, bid'ah. Number 2, multiple Jum'ahs in the same mosque, bid'ah. Multiple Jum'ahs in a non-mosque, bid'ah, right? The khutbahs in English, bid'ah. Bid'ah for bid'ah for bid'ah. But they're holding it to be mukhtalaf fihi and even necessary, right? There is a concept of bid'ah wajibah. And Imam it was Izz ibn Abd al-Salam gave examples. For example, learning nahu. There have to be grammarians who document the Arabic language. Without the knowledge of what the words mean, we will know what the Quran is, right? What the Quran means. Wasn't from the amal of the Salaf to document, or from the amal of the Sahaba to document what words mean and go out to the Bedouin and talk to them and say, what do you say about this? And how they make tarkib of their grammar. To the point that you ended up with the Basran school and the Kufan school. The Basran school by Persia and the Kufan school up north a little bit. Kufan school led by Kisaie. He has a qira'ah as well. Basran school led by whom? Sibawaih. In his lifetime, Sibawaih lost out to Kisaie. But afterwards, the Ummah picked up Sibawayh's school. And we all follow that now. Speak.
So behind this khutbah is like Arabic. My dad and I, we don't, like we try understanding, like I'm trying to learn Arabic so I can understand.
That's good, yeah.
But like since we don't understand it fully, when we're done with the khutbah, like we go home, we eat lunch, and then we listen to, like, for example, Sheikh Umar
Yeah.
We listen to his khutbah, or we listen to Umar Sulaiman, a khutbah from him.
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
Yeah. I mean, that's just to learn something. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Yes.
Who was the other scholar you mentioned Sibawaih? Who was the other one?
Al-Kisaie. Yeah, Al-Kisaie. Kisaie was an Arab, Sibawaih was a Persian. At the time, Kisaie was a dominating figure in Kufa. Kufa was the bigger city. And this was something that, they debated how to structure, because remember, a language is out there in the world. Then the scholars go in and try to document what is the logic of how this language works, what are the meanings of the words. That comes after. It doesn't come the other way around. So they were both all doing that at that time. Kisaie had his opinion, and he led a group of scholars. He was the leader of a group that had a certain opinion on how things were. Sibawaih was the leader of another group of people. Sibawaih's group was smaller, his stature was less. Even though he had a cooler name, right? But his stature was less. He was a Persian. Kisaie was a massive scholar. He was very close to power. He was also a scholar of the recitations of the Quran. And so the ruler there at the time, one of the powerful people, a governor, maybe the Khalifa himself, he said, let's have one final debate. This was like their fun at that time. But they took it seriously, right? The scholars took it seriously. So he had one big epic debate, right? The debate to end all discussion on which structure of grammar was correct. And they had different terms for different things, like khafd versus jazm. Jar, for example. Khafd versus jar, things like that. So they went and had the debate, and everyone thought that Sibawaih was younger, but he was sharper. They thought he would get it, and he got trounced. Kisaie trounced him. Sibawaih was so humiliated by the debate that he went home and he never left his house again, and he died of grief. He died of grief. And Allah knows best, I believe he was so brokenhearted that Allah Ta'ala, to compensate him, made after his death and after Kisaie's death, that people said, wait, Sibawaih's structures makes more sense. And then the Basran school overtook the Kufan school over time. But in his lifetime, Kisaie won out. So when you have two greats, Allah Ta'ala divided up the victory. Kisaie will win, and you'll live to see your victory. But after your death, it's gonna go to Sibawaih.
So he actually died his Sibawaih's debate.
Yeah, his school of thought, his structure of how Arabic grammar was, it took the day. The scholars looked at it like more calmly, without the biases in front of them. Even today. Yeah, well, today, it's done with. There's no more discussion on this. It's been done for a long time. Just like hadith, what's sound, what's weak, that's discussion is done with. No one's going to come today and say, all right, let's re-examine if this hadith is sahih. Who said this? Ibn Salah himself. Ibn Salah is the go-to in hadith. He says in his introduction, khalas, game over on qualifying hadith and disqualifying hadith. It's done for. Then he said that like hundreds of years ago. So same thing in grammar. It's done for. The discussion is done for. But sometimes people's body distracts from their content. Like maybe he was a Persian, maybe he was younger. So there's a bias internally, deep inside people's hearts or minds against him. That could have been the reason. And Kisaie is an Arab. He was tall. He was a tall figure. He was a domineering figure. So there's an inherent bias towards him. Now, once the bodies are gone from the earth and the personalities are gone from the earth, and now people are just reading objectively speaking. He is far better. His structure was far better. It's not me to judge that. It was what the scholars judged. I'll give you an example. This is silly, but I'll give you an example. In baseball, there were the 4 greatest ball players. I just saw this, actually. Judged the 4 greatest ball players, and they left out the Yankee Yogi Berra. They left him out. And when you look at the stats of championships, MVPs, batting average, he trounces all of them. Like, not even a discussion. He trounces them all. He has more World Series than all of them combined. He has more MVPs than all of them combined. How is he not on the list? Well, the reason is his body, his look, his shape, and his reputation overshadowed people, and people think they don't realize how great of a player he was. And he was better than all these guys. By a mile. Everywhere he went, his team won. Either made it to the World Series or won the World Series. As a manager, as a coach, and as a player, the guy won 10 World Series in 11 years. It's ridiculous, right? So sometimes your body and your personality. His personality was these wacky sayings. These wacky sayings that he had. But they had a lot of wisdom to them. And his appearance just didn't look like an athlete at all, right? So because of that, and then also they made a cartoon after him later on. And the cartoon was a goofy, silly bear trying to play baseball that stinks. Yeah. So because of all that, people's minds are like, nah, there's no way he could be one of the best. But he actually statistically was the best. In all categories. In all categories, the main categories that they counted. Championships, MVPs, batting average. So, all right. So that's to give an example that sometimes people's physical appearance, their personality, distracts from the objective success that they had. And Allah knows best, but that could have been the situation with Sibawaih. So Allah's Messenger is warning us from the mingling with the people of these innovations. وَمَنْ يَتَّبِعَ الْمُشْكِلَاتِ لِلْفِتْنَةِ. And why? And people who continue to pry into different upon matters that sow discord between people. And for us, we have opinions on the Mutashabihaat. We have opinions on Mukhtalif, different upon Dhanni verses that are Muhkam, that law is based on. But we have to mature enough to realize this cannot ever be a source of discord in the Ummah. And it should never be the number one priority that we ask about. The number one priority, the far more important of these to someone, does he hold it? Does he keep his prayers? Does he have piety? Does he avoid alcohol? Does he avoid zina? Is he on the right side with vis-a-vis the oppressors and the oppressed? That's far more important. That's harder. That's what success is based upon. Success of a nation is based upon controlling your desires, being fair and just, fighting against the wrong. It's far more important of a battle line than these matters. فأما من سأل عما أشكل عليه منها للاسترشاد وتلطف في ذلك فلا بأس عليه. Like, there's nothing wrong in learning about these issues, in asking about these issues. What's wrong is al-ittiba', constantly, not like you have no other subject. And those from amongst us even who divide up the ummah on who supports the mawlid and who doesn't. This has to be a trick of Iblis. I guarantee you it's a trick of Iblis. Far more important than, does this person observe the Sharia every day with his family? Does he attend masajid? Does he fight against oppressors, even at least with his heart? Like, does he avoid riba and khamr and memorize the Quran and care about these crux things that Iblis turns you away from those, and he turns you to these little masail and mashakil. وَأَمَّا الْأَوَّلُ فَلَا يُجَابُ بَلْ يُزْجَرُ. The first one, you don't answer him. The first one who's trying to poke at you and say, okay, where are you on this issue so I could separate between you. All right? وَيُعْزَرُ. Umar Ibn Al Khataab did so. Malik ibn Anas did so when he saw the fitna in his eyes. It wasn't that the person is asking genuinely, I'm genuinely curious. What does it mean? if we know this about Allah, but then he says this, well, what does that mean? Then he says, Ghazali says, that person, you answer him. You quell the curiosity or the doubt in his heart. But the one who's trying to cause fitna, la. Okay. Umar Ibn Al Khataab, what he did with Sabigh ibn Asil, حين كان يتبع المتشابه. Sabigh, if I'm pronouncing it right, Ibn Asil. Okay. Let's see what that story is all about. Sabigh ibn Asil. And of course, this story ends with Umar ibn Al Khattab hitting him. Okay. ما هي قصة صبيغ? Is it صبيغ or صبيغ? Ibn Asal or Asil? Different spellings here. All right. Wait, what? What website is this, first of all, that I'm looking at? Before I read anything out, I gotta know what this website is. في الغدير للشيخ الأميني الغدير. No, it sounds like a Shia book. You would have gotten hit too by Umar. Worse, maybe. He says here, here's another. حورميني موسوعة رواة الحديث. First of all, I got to know what I'm reading first before I even spend 2 seconds on this. I got to know the source. Okay, Ibn Mandur مختصر تاريخ دمشق. Ibn Mandur, summary of the history of Damascus. جئت عمر بن الخطاب زمان الهدنة. In a time of peace, I came to Umar ibn Khattab. وعلي غديرتان قلنسية. He was wearing something, I don't know what it is. غديرة قلنسية, a garment of some sorts. فقال عمر إني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم say, يخرج من المشرق, out of the east will come حلقان الرؤوس يقرؤون القرآن, shaved head, and they talk a big talk about the Quran. لا يجاوز حناجرهم, it doesn't come out of their throat, meaning it doesn't pass their throat. The recitation doesn't pass their throat, meaning that it doesn't enter their hearts or their intellects. They shave their head and they talk a big talk about Islam. طوبى لمن قتلوه, blessings to the one who fights them. What does it mean, قتلوه? So if I see one, I kill them? No, lawfully. Tuba, paradise is for the one who fights them lawfully. And who is that specifically for? Generally for everyone who fights them lawfully, but specifically Sayyidina Ali. Sayyidina Ali is the one who fought the Khawarij. Talking about the Kharijites here. وَطُوبَى لِمَنْ قَتَلَهُمْ. Paradise is for ones who they kill and he fights them. In other words, in the war, you succeed or you fail, you get paradise. When you fight these people, lawfully in war. All the verses about killing in the Quran, you see a pagan, kill him, do this. In war, it's in the battle. Allah is telling you that war is not haram. Because many religious people, like the Christians, they're like pacifists. No, in our religion, you may have to go to war. Then Umar ibn Khattab, he said, no one host him and no one sit with him. With this man. Okay. Subayg ibn Asal. I don't know if right now it's Sabigh or Subayg. I don't have the tashkil here. قال سعيد بن المسيب. Who is Sa'id ibn Musayyib? First of all, he's second generation. He is a top student of son of Umar, Abdullah bin Umar. Top student. He's the number one most knowledgeable of the second generation, which we call the Tabi'een. جاء الصبيغ التميمي إلى عمر. الصبيغ التميمي came to Umar. And he said, now he's telling us the whole story. يا أمير المؤمنين أخبرني عن الذاريات ذروة. Oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen, tell me about the meaning of الذاريات ذروة. Umar ibn Khattab said, it's the wind. ولولا أن سمعت أني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ما قلت. If I had not heard that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوَةً is the wind, I wouldn't have said it. In other words, I wouldn't have known this. قال فأخبرني عن الحاملات وقرا. Tell me about what is الحاملات وقرا. He said it's the clouds. And if I had not heard the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would not have said it. He said, then tell me about al-muqassimati amra. Umar Ibn Al Khataab said, it's the angels. And if I had not heard the Prophet saying, I wouldn't have said it. He said, tell me about al-jariyati yusra. Al-jariyati yusra, the Umar Ibn Al Khataab said, it's ships that travel on the water. And if I had not heard the Prophet ﷺ saying it, I wouldn't have said it. So Umar Ibn Khattab realized this person is not asking out of genuine desire to know the Quran. He saw in his eyes, this man, he's damashakir. He's off. He's poking at the Quran for some unhealthy reason. So Umar Khattab commanded him to be struck 100 lashes. Okay? 100 lashes. فَأَمَرَ بِهِ عُمَرْ فَضُرِبَ مِئَةً. He was hit with 100 lashes. Yeah, mess around with the deen. You can't do this. Playing around with the Quran like this. Asking and poking and causing fitan. And to keep staying in his home. He has to stay in his home. فَإِذَا بَرِئَ دَعَى بِهِ. Umar kept asking, is he better now from the lashes? The hits? Is he better? Okay. They finally said, yes, he's better. He's walking. 2-3 days pass. He's sleeping on his back now. He said, bring him to me then. He said, he brought him. He said, he's like, have this discussion with Umar, get like maybe a lecture from him. Nah, you're going to get hit again. Okay. فَضَرَبَهُ مِئَةَ أُخْرَى. He hit him another 100 lashes. Okay. وَكَتَبَ إِلَى أَبِي مُوسَى. He wrote to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Believe Abu Musa, maybe he was in Yemen or maybe he was in the north. I don't know. حَرِّمْ عَلَى النَّاسِ مُجَالَسَتَهُ. No one is allowed to sit with him. He's a man who causes fitna. He keeps asking questions with the purpose of, as if he has a bad intent in his asking of questions. So nobody sit with him. فَلَمْ يَزَلْ كَذَلِكَ حَتَّى أَتَى أَبَا مُوسَى فَحَلَفَ لَهُ بِالْأَيْمَانِ الْمُغَلَّظَةِ مَا يَجِدُ فِي نَفْسِهِ مِمَّا كَانَ شَيْئًا. He swears to Abu Musa, Wallahi, I'm done asking these questions. I'm done with these questions. I'm not going to act like this anymore. I'm set my head straight now. All the pain, set my head straight. You know, pain fixes your mind. It does. Pain fixes your mind. When a person fails badly and is in pain and rolling around in his bed out of pain and miserable and he can't even smell food, you put good food in front of him, he can't smell it. You physically can't smell it from how disappointed, how upset he is, right? You change. You realize, I need to improve myself. You have a question?
Yeah. Did they know 100% that the questions he was asking was with bad intent, or did they just have a feeling?
Umar ibn Khattab's feeling, it's almost 100%. Did not the Prophet ﷺ say, if in my ummah there are any muhaddath, it's Umar? Inspired. He knows. When he sees something, he knows. فَكَتَبَ فِي ذَلِكَ الْعُمَرِ. So Abu Musa, the governor now, where this man lives, Subaykh, where he lives, and he's swearing up and down, Wallahi, I'm done asking these questions and sowing doubts like this. So he says, okay, I'm going to write to Umar. ما إخاله إلا قد صدق فخلي بينه وبين مجالسته الناس. So he wrote to Umar, and Umar ibn Khattab says, fine, let people sit with him. I accept it. It's acceptable, right? فخلي بينه وبين مجالسته الناس. Let people sit with him. وفي رواية أخرى بمعناه واحملوه على قتب وأبلو. Same meaning. صبيغا طلب العلم وأخطأه فلم يزل وضيعا في قومه بعد أن كان سيدا فيهم. So he started off as a good student. This is his Sabigh's origin. He started off good. But in the course of knowledge, he lost his way. You're all students of knowledge. Don't lose your way. Okay? When you go to Tarim, when you go to all these places to study, because he's going to Tarim, inshallah. Zayd, Allah knows best where he's going to go. Right? They're all going to go study. They all study and they leave my staff empty. You know what? I'm going to hire a non-Talib ilm. I'm going to hire a Salafi. Right? Who's never going to go study in anywhere. Right? No matter how many shiyukh we bring to MBIC and all the trips we go to, he'll never go. Right? Huh? He'll turn eventually, I know. But don't lose your mind. Keep your mind on the muhkam. That which is guaranteed, which is 100% known, no differ upon. And that which is on the edges, don't give it too much attention. It's just details, right? And you may go to a place where people give the default is established. 100% of the population here, they all understand the default, right? Now it's just for us to discuss the details. But that's not the rest of the ummah. That's just that place, right? Maybe just that place where we all agree 98%, now we're going to debate the 2%. Then you come back to America and start debating the 2%. That's not smart. You're not a wise person. So focus on your fiqh, your basic zuhud and dhikr. The attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we understand fully and know fully. The methodology of dua and dhikr that is widely accepted in any masjid that you go to. All right? So that's what the hifz of Quran, the study of Arabic, study of hadith. I'm telling you, it's far better, and that's why murabat al-hajj is almost mujma' alayh. It's not fully mujma' alayh, because, you know, there are some hardcore Wahhabis, I would say, call them, in Mauritania, who curse him. They used to curse murabat al-hajj, right? But you hardly find anybody find any issue with him, because he focuses on the 90% that is guaranteed, and he leaves the 10%. He may have opinions about the 10%, but he doesn't harness upon that or focus upon that, and that's what's important for us to do. Okay. So he was great, but when he started to lose himself in knowledge and delve in these details, in these side issues, these debatable issues, the people started saying, what's wrong with this man? And then they hated him. They hated him. They lowered, he became low in their eyes. وفي حديث آخر, in another hadith, أنه لما سأله قال له عمر, when he asked questions, Umar said, ضع عن رأسك فإذا له وفرة فقال عمر أما والله لو رأيتك محلوقا لضربت الذي فيه عيناك. So he said, show me your hair, show me your head. So he put his head down. He must have been covered with a turban that covers the sides too, so you can't tell if the person has hair or not. You know that's according to Malik, the mandub, and it's almost makruh. The idea that the way we wear turbans, Malik, you said that's makruh. The turban actually should go under or around the neck. Yeah, you know that? Yeah, I mean the Mauritanians, they wear it that way. So clearly they view it as maybe a mukhtalaf fihi, differed upon, or just a light discouragement. Yeah. So the actual sunnah regarding the turban, according to Malik, is the full turban with the part of it that goes under the chin. Right? So he clearly must have been wearing that, because Umar could not tell if he had any hair at all. Like clearly if you're wearing like a kufi like mine, you can see that I have hair here, right? So he said, take it off, let me see your head. He saw that he had hair. He said, wallahi, if you wore shaved head, I would have cut your head off, right? Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, when you see these people pecking away at mukhtalaf fihi issues, or pecking away at the mutashabihaat, and they have shaved heads, that means they're extreme in everything they do. With their hair, he's extreme. His beard, he's extreme. His thobe, he's extreme. Everything about him is extreme, extreme, extreme. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ is telling, this is a cancer in the ummah. طُوبَى لِمَنْ قَتَلُوهُ وَقَتَلَهُ. Paradise belongs to the one who ends up fighting them in a legitimate legal war, not walking around the streets looking for them to kill them. Okay? You know that I had a calligraphy teacher. I'm not going to say his name. He taught me khat and calligraphy. And he said, because of this hadith, he said, if I was sultan, I would declare a day. Right? Killing such people is lawful. Right? Find any of these guys, you kill. Like, you know, the purge, where everything is, what is it? Where everything is illegal. There's no law for a day. So he said, it'll be the purge, but this is the only thing. You go around, you kill them all day. He's just joking, but he meant by that this hadith. Okay? Huh? Yeah.
What's the way to deal with this matter in modern day, where, like, you know, if we approach approach somebody like this with aggression, they might just come off of Islam.
No, we got to stay focused on what is established in the religion and what is the foundation of the religion. And when we may at any time answer those questions, but never get sucked into their warp zone. Take it from me. I got sucked into their warp zone. I answered them all the time, but then I'm like, 50% of the time I'm talking about what I'm answering them. That's enough. Khalas, we shouldn't go that route. We should be focused on the fundamentals that all the Muslims benefit from. And even though we have opinions on these matters, we should not elevate those things. It's not a victory to elevate, to spread a matter of opinion. It's a victory to spread the fundamentals of the deen, the tawheed, the way of living as Muslims. Yes.
Reminds me of a quote by Churchill, even though he's a bad person, there's wisdom in the quote.
Yeah.
He says, you won't get to your destination if you keep throwing rocks on every dog that barks.
That's the thing. You're not going to get to your destination, he said. You don't have the mic. Take care, gentlemen. Well done, young man. You watered all 3 plants?
Yeah,
Huh? How much water?
like a mug each.
Fair enough. All right. He said you're not going to get to your destination if you throw rocks at every single dog that barks at you. So eventually you just got to stop, right? You just the Zionists right now, they are the enemy. Worldwide order of Zionism is the enemy. They're the enemy. And if Shaitan convinces you that some other Muslims, he's an enemy, yeah, he may be a lesser enemy, but to prioritize the lesser over the greater, that's the problem.
Should I put the linen downstairs?
Yeah, go to NBC.
Yeah, just put it... Here, Habib, unlock my car from the window here. Just from up here.
Okay, put it in your trunk?
Or the... Yeah. All right. There are multiple enemies. Yes, that's true. But you cannot fight the third rank enemy and leave the first one. Something's wrong with your head if you do that. 100%. Something's wrong with your head. So the Arab rulers, what are their status? They're complicit in this. They are our problem from within. How about scholars that lead other people astray? We hold them to be people of sects or misguided. It's going to be less than those rulers and less than the Zionists, right? There's not the time. There's a time and a place for everything, and you betray the Ummah when you mix up the priorities. There's a famous saying that if you go into a city, if a scholar goes into a city and he hangs out for a little bit and he finds that they're very good with their families, but they use riba in the marketplace. Like their family life is very good, but they use riba in the marketplace. Then you go, did you lock it? Okay, thanks. Then you go and give a speech at khutbah on the prohibition of zina, and you don't talk about the prohibition of riba. You betrayed those people. You're letting them fall into a ditch. There's a ditch right in front of you. They're walking into that ditch, but you're telling you, be careful on the left. There's a ditch. Well, they're not there. There's a ditch right in front of them. So you betrayed them. I think that this is our way of the Muslims who have been given victory generation after generation are those who are able to rise and put the priorities right, including who their enemy is. All right. So he says here, ثم كتب إلى أهل البصرة أو إلينا لا تجالسوا قال فلو جاء نحن 100 لتفرقنا. So this narration of the story says that Umar wrote to the people of Basra, if he comes, don't sit with him. So the narrator of this hadith saying, if we were 100 people sitting in a place and he came, we all left. Like they all... But that's why there were no fitan. Iblis goes the opposite way of Umar Ibn Al Khataab. Umar Ibn Al Khataab has such a sharp vision of things. He can see where is the work of Iblis. This is the work of Iblis. And I'm telling you right now, the work of Iblis amongst the people who we want to try to be like students of knowledge and scholars is to elevate the 2% issue to the top. And then you have girls' brains getting blown out. Muhammad ibn Sireen said, Kataba Umar. You all know who Muhammad ibn Sireen is. He's a big Tabi'i scholar and a famous dream interpreter. But he's a muhaddith. كتب عمر بن الخطاب إلى أبي موسى الأشعري ألا يجالس صبيغ. That Umar wrote to Abu Musa, no one should sit with him. وأن يحرم عطاءه ورزقه. Do not let him work Do not give him anything. Don't let him work. وكان صبيغ بالبصرة كأنه بعير أجرب. When he was in Basra, he became alone, like a outcast. يجيء إلى الحلقة. He comes to the gathering of people and he sits down. وهم لا يعرفونه. And they don't know who he is. فتناديهم الحلقة الأخرى. Another group of people say, hey, that's Sabigh. Okay. Then they would all get up. Until finally what happens is that he goes to Abu Musa and he swears the strong oath. Not a regular, wallahi, no, strong oath that he stopped. Tell Umar, please, to lift this embargo from me. So Umar Ibn Al Khataab isolated the cancer until the cancer died, and the man repented, and he dies a good death as a regular Muslim now, right? It's the importance of priorities. Let's go to Q&A here. We got a few minutes for Q&A. We got fiqh after this. Tasawwuf class after this. Okay. Elon Musk, what a dog that guy is. I do look forward to seeing what his ending is going to be like. I don't think it's going to be good. A little puppet for the Zionists when they threatened they're going to crush your Twitter and you're going to be $400 million in debt. He came running back with his tail between his legs. How should a normal person work for the Khilafa? The belief in it, the talk about it, I believe. And we should have a general idea that these lines between nations should be dotted lines. They should be states in a united nation, a united states. Right? They should be dotted lines. Just like the difference between New Jersey and New York. You're going to have your local laws, but you have dotted lines. All of these nations got to come under one. Of course, that's the theory. And I've said earlier that what's more important than all this, and a lot of people misunderstood this, by the way. They misunderstood this. Is the idea that it's when I'm telling you that people don't talk about the love, it's not the people working for the Khilafa. It's when we work for the Khilafa and the revival of Islam, love of Allah has to be put first. The general population of Muslims don't have a love for Allah. General population of Muslims, this is dying in them. That's what we're talking about here. You cannot have, Allah does not choose people to represent Him unless He loves them and they love Him. That's what Allah says. وَمَا يَرْتَدَّ مِنْكُمْ عَنْ دِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِ اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ يُحِبُّهُمْ وَيُحِبُّونَهُ. Okay? He loves them and they love Him. So to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to focus on that is extremely important. And only when you have an ummah that's returned to that love with their creator, soon everything will open up one at a time. But the more we love the dunya, what did the Prophet ﷺ say about the people who are going to be eaten up by the rest of the world? He says, Hubbud dunya, they love the dunya. Wa karahiyat al-maut, meaning they hate death, meaning they hate to meet Allah. There's no love for Allah. All right? So that's... and by the way, there was another thing I need to say. The people asked about the hadith of the himar of the Dajjal, the donkey of the Dajjal that's 40 cubits wide and jumps in the clouds. I don't think that there's any narration that says that it has eyes along its side. I heard it from someone and repeated it, but I think that person was way off. Like, I don't know where he got that, unless it's some odd narration that I didn't see. But when you look at the narrations, it just says two things. He has the width of the donkey is 40 cubits and he jumps through the clouds. So clear that still could be mu'awwal as a plane. And by the way, when we interpret that as a plane, it could be a right interpretation, could be wrong. You have to understand it's speculative, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he did say that maybe for them to understand, but he also could have simply said that man will create a metal object that flies through the sky. So we can't say 110% for sure that this is what the Prophet meant, but we could say it could be what he meant. How do you prove the kalam nafsi? Kalam lafzi and kalam nafsi in the Quran? Well, the reason of it is this. Allah Ta'ala has attributed the Quran, his speech, to himself. Yet, he is telling us that another aspect of the Quran is muhdath. It comes into being. And maj'ul, it's made. So that points us to al-kalam al-lafzi. Kalam al-nafsi is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is within himself, that has no sound, no letter, no beginning, no end. Nothing of creation. Okay? But then, when that word gets placed into a word that we can recite, then that's what's called al-kalam al-lafzi. And the word Quran can point to both, can mean both. That's why you can't say Quran is created. So what's the proof of this in the Quran? Hamim, Surah Al-Zukhruf, وَالْكِتَابِ الْمُبِينِ إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Verily we have made it, meaning Allah's speech, we have made it. Something pre-eternal doesn't get made. لا يكون مجعولا. What I'm saying to you here is directly from the Quran, and it's confirmed by the scholars. لا يكون القديم مجعولا. That which is pre-eternal and infinite in the past can never be made. So Allah Ta'ala's kalam nafsi, ja'alahu, he made it into a recited word in the Arabic language. So that shows the difference. Made what? Ja'alnahu. We have made it, meaning his kalam nafsi, into an Arabic recited book, a book that you can recite in Arabic. And Allah says, ما يأتيهم من ذكر, Surah Al-Anbiya, ما يأتيهم من ذكر من ربهم محدث إلا استمعوه وهم يلعبون. They never get, meaning the disbelievers, never get a revelation that has come to them fresh, or that has been muhdath, created for them. Muhdath, came into being, a revelation that came into being. So could it mean it came into being in their mind because they didn't know it existed, then it existed? Yes, it could mean that. But it definitely could also mean the revelation itself came into being into this world, meaning this eternal speech of Allah was placed, ju'ila, as bilafd al-Quran, ju'ila, ja'alnahu, wa uhditha, and was put into, for the first time, made for the first time into a book that can be recited. Hence, the definition of the Quran is that it can point to, the word Quran can point to Allah's eternal speech within himself that is qadim, that has no beginning, no end, no letters, no beginning, no end, no language. And it points to al-kalam al-lafzi, which is that speech placed into a word that we can recite in a language that is a created language with a beginning and an end that we humans can recite. That's the for the question for Neil in 3. How do you prove the kalam nafsi and kalam lafzi from the Quran? And to say that the Quran is Allah's eternal speech that is qadim doesn't need proof in the gatherings of Ahl Sunnah. It needed proof to the Mu'tazila. And the proof of that is hatta yasma'u kalam Allah, until they hear the word of Allah. So Allah attributed the speech to himself. Yeah, speak.
I'm not clear understanding the explanation. So, the words of Allah was turned into something we can recite?
Yes, maj'ul, ju'ila wa uhditha. By the language of the Quran, ju'ila wa uhditha. Inna ja'alnahu Qur'anan Arabiyyan. وما يأتي من ذكر من ربهم محدث. So it has been placed and made into a word that we can recite.
Then wouldn't that mean, like kind of wouldn't that mean like something unchanged turned into something changed?
Yes, something that is infinite placed into something finite that has a beginning and an end and is in a language that is a created language, right? So that aspect of it is maj'ul and muhdath. We're only going to use the words that the Quran uses. Inna ja'alnahu ma yati min dhikr min rabbihim muhdath. So let's just, and that's it. We stop right there. right? This is again one of those 2% questions. We have an answer to it. We're not going to enter into a brawl over it. And if they want to make a clip and say Mubtada, innovator, blah blah blah, all right. I mean, I'm just repeating to you what I would say probably 75 to 80% of our scholars after this debate came about settled upon what I just said. Because, by the way, the early salaf of the scholars, the question may have just started to come about. And the final say and the final correct answer had not yet been decided yet. So early on, when a debate comes out, the initial reaction is not what you judge on. You judge on later afterwards when the thing's been settled and gone over so many times and we've settled upon it and all the answers have been, and the terminology has been defined. That's what is more clear. All right. What's your view of creating a new madhab in Europe? Ahlan wa sahlan. Just show me the mujtahid who's going to do it. There's nothing shar'i by sharia that could disallow this. But there is, by practicality, something that will disallow this, which is show me the mujtahid imam that we will all, that enough Muslims will agree upon, and whose religion and his fatwa are tried and tested. We're not going to experiment in religion here, in fatwa. That's not right. And then maybe it'll happen, right? But show me who that person is who's going to lead it. It can't be a movement. It's got to be, we need one mujtahid imam to lead the way. But I don't think that's going to happen, right? However, there's nothing by sharia that this would disallow such a mujtahid to come about. Not by reason nor by sharia. By practicality and by likelihood, 0%. I'll just say 0.1% just in case. But what I'll tell you, what you do need in Europe and America and all over the world now is fuqaha of your madhab, the scholars of your madhab, who are mujtahid in new matters. You need that for sure. And that, I think, was what she's pointing to here, the sister asking this question. You need a mujtahid in new matters. Right? So new methods, types of food that are about to come out. Food that's made in labs, meat that's made in a lab. Do we eat it? Do we not eat it? It's probably, maybe by the next century or by middle of this century, going to be very popular out there. Right? A drop of blood put into a lab or whatever, and boom. Should we take knowledge from Abu Layth al-Maliki based on the past few years? I would have to say la, as he made fun of many ahadith and he denied many things that are qat'i in our religion, made fun of a lot of the signs of the end of time, and had opinions that would not make a person feel at ease with him, and many of the ulama responded to him, and some of them even broke into his house, which was, I guess you can say, technically against the law, and maybe not the right way, but when you mess around, you can attract thugs, because he said, what Palestinians, why don't they just have dignity and leave their homes? So a group of people said, okay, put Palestinian flags on and barged into his house. And he said, leave your home, because you're telling the Palestinians to leave their homes. So we're telling you to leave your home. Sometimes you throw rocks and you wonder why a rock came right back at you, right? Don't throw rocks. But may Allah guide him, and may Allah guide us, and may Allah guide all of us to Sirat al-Mustaqim. Abu Layth, I was like internet friends with him in the past. But some of the things he said was over the top. Rejection of the return of Isa. Why would you need to go into that? Right? Like who? This is in the books of Aqeedah. So many ahadith and ayat that point to this. Why would you need to go into this? What does it benefit you to go into these things? Is it possible to be a wali without people knowing? For sure. 100%. لا تحقر عبدا عسى أن يكون لله وليا. Don't ever look down on an abd. He may be a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even someone far, far astray right now, he may make a tawbah and come back and become one of the great awliya of Allah. And it's more likely if he's sinful with the sins of the flesh, of the actions, than the misguidance of aqeedah. My Sheikh Mahmoud Shabib said he has never seen, someone go astray in Aqidah and come back and become a righteous scholar. He's never seen it. He says because that, it's a whim and it's prove your point type of thing. And people tend to hold on to those misguidances. We ask Allah afi and salama, but we never say never. Uga, you have a question?
I remember in Aqidah al-Tahawiyya, he put that anyone who says the Shahada is the one,
Who said that?
Imam al-Tahawi.
Yes, anyone who says the Shahada without negating it with bid'ah in Aqidah, he has entered the first level of wilayah. Allah's protection from eternal hell. That's it. That's a type of wilayah. But here we're talking about al-wilayah al-khassa al-madhkura fil hadith. We're talking about awliya. We're talking about the wilayah that Allah speaks about in His hadith Qudsi regarding those who have gone above and beyond, who sought knowledge and worshipped Allah above and beyond until Allah loves them. Here's a good question. Is surrogacy permissible? No. Nothing of the alteration of how to have children is allowed in our religion. Even IVF is highly contentious because once you part with your reproductive fluids, it's all dhanni after that. Once you part with your reproductive fluids, who knows? It could be the most honest, upright. I don't know how it works. I mean, she's got a test tube, I guess, and she's got a little bit of your fluid. And she puts one down and, oh, hold on. Wait, Abdullah's fluid. Oh, shoot. Is this Abdullah or is it Salim? Oh, no. Right? Well, they look alike, so here, right? Who the heck knows what's happening behind closed doors of the mistakes that could take place, let alone outright corruptions. And we saw that there is a guy who has over 1,000 kids. You know that? He's insane. He's a guy who got addicted to donating his sperm. And he'd get a high every time a kid was born. And he went and he did that all over Europe, then all over Africa, and all over Asia, to the point that him and his 3 buddies have probably over 1,000 biological kids. So that's why we don't really allow for any alteration of the methods of having children, although there probably are fatwa for IVF. But it's almost like halal meat, right? So if I take some cuts of meat from my fridge and I put in a plastic bag and I give it to a guy and I give it to the butcher, a regular non-Muslim butcher, and I said, listen, when Salim comes, give him this bag. And Salim comes and this bag has been handled in a non-Muslim butcher's store. So at this point, what happens if he lost the meat? What happens if he accidentally didn't? He's not bound by any sharia in his mind to not mix these meats up. So as a result, we're not allowed to have it. Unless I had it labeled in such a way that would be almost impossible, at least customarily impossible for him to replicate. Like I branded it in such a way, like a package that's customarily it's impossible for him to replicate, then I can trust it. But otherwise, this man does not have a sharia by which he has to be honest with me and not mix my meat. He doesn't believe that this has to be halal meat. So if he loses my 10 drumsticks that I'm giving to Salim, he'll replace it with any other 10 drumsticks. It's not anything haram for him to do. Same thing in the issue of a woman's face. If in front of a Muslim, there are opinions. The one opinion is that it's on the man to lower the gaze. Right? The other opinion is that if she suspects him to be inappropriate and look at her with pleasure, she should cover her face. But that's up to opinion. But they didn't disagree on the fact that in front of a kafir, he's not obligated to lower his gaze. He has no belief in the concept of lowering the gaze. She's got to cover her face in front of a kafir. And the only thing that would disallow this, if covering her face would cause her more of a harm or a hardship, then she chooses which is the lesser of 2 hardships. But that's our law, right? A Muslim woman should not reveal her face in front of a kafir, right? Because he doesn't believe he has to lower the gaze. We believe we have to lower the gaze, right? And Allah says, oh, you who believe, lower your gazes. Lower my gaze from what? Niqabi? Wouldn't have to, right? So based upon that ayah is those who hold the opinion that no, she's not obligated. You have to lower your gaze. Then there's aqwal on that. There's talk on that. Once you suspect him, he's looking at you for pleasure, cover. Or if she is of immense beauty that is just abnormal, that any man would be like stunned when he sees her, then she should cover her face too. There's different sayings about that. But there is no different sayings on the kafir, the non-believer. He doesn't believe he has to lower his gaze. So the only time that it would be permissible for her not to cover her face in front of a non-believer who doesn't believe he has to lower his gaze is if that would cause a far greater hardship for her than covering her face. All right. So same concept here. You don't part with your reproductive fluid or organs, so you don't know what's going to happen, a mistake or what have you. All right. And all right, let's say it happens, because there's a type of fiqh that says what should happen. Then there's a type of fiqh that says, okay, let's say they didn't do it. What happens if they did get another woman to carry their baby? Who is the mom? In ummahatukum illa allai waladnahum. Allah defines the mother. Your mother is the one who gave birth to you. She's the mom. The woman who gave birth, I don't care whose egg or it is, right? Whose fertilized egg into another woman, no, doesn't make a difference. Why would you assume how much of the DNA, the fertilized egg is like this much, but the woman will carry that baby for 9 months more, be nourished by her blood, by being nourished by her body. And ultimately, at the same time, another argument of that is that what does the society see? We didn't see the fertilization, but we all see the pregnant woman, right? So that's qat'i. The fertilization is dhanni. Definitive and speculative. And Allah has just given us the answer, with or without a reason. In ummahatum illa allai waladnahum. Verily, their mothers are those who gave birth to them. It's amazing how that's a verse of ruling now. It's a verse of law. Whereas before that, it's an obvious statement, right? Same thing. Allah created you males and females. Obvious statement. It's a controversial law now, right? In our societies that we live in. Can we say the salam to non-Muslims or at least return it? What I know about that is that the salam is to the Muslims. It's a right and it's a privilege of Muslims to receive the greeting of assalamu alaikum, because the one who submitted to Allah is not like the one who didn't submit to Allah. So this is what I know about it. I could look at it, right? Look at it again, but from what I know from my teacher in fiqh is that no, the salam is to Muslims. Anyone else, you say hi, bye, how are you, etc. Because the salam, it's wholeness and it's peace. How can someone be upon peace if he didn't submit to Allah and His Messenger? So that's the idea there. What happens if you die in space? Here's a question, a very interesting question. What happens if you die in space? I suppose that they would take you and give you a ghusl and bury you when you get back on the earth, into the earth. If you died on a ship and there was a long journey, I think they wrapped you and they preyed upon you and they put you in the sea, dropped you into the sea. I believe that's what they did, because otherwise the body would rot. If the body would rot, I think they have refrigeration, but if the body would rot, then maybe I guess we would let it float away in space. Allah knows best. I don't know. When did dinosaurs exist in relation to the prophets in Islam? Allah knows best. Allah knows best. So I'm answering these questions because they're just interesting questions, but I also am pointing to that these are like very hamishy questions, right? Hamish is like the margin of things, like unimportant questions. Dinosaurs probably, by the way, I have a philosophy about dinosaurs and a theory. They never existed like the way they look. And the proof of that is they're changing their theory on how dinosaurs looked. Every generation, 2 generations, they look different from when the parents studied them. I don't think they looked exactly the way they look. There's probably definitely, they're maybe 50%, maybe 60%, right? But they're always changing it. In London, where do you study Maliki fiqh? Good question. Do not know any Malikiya in London. See, the most proliferated madhab in the West is the Hanafi school. There's Hanafi scholars everywhere. There's probably 10 right now in London that are teaching at this very moment. But I cannot tell you where the Malikiya, but probably go to Westbourne Park and ask. Westbourne Park is where the Moroccans are. Go there and there's probably someone who could teach you the Risal of Ibn Abi Zayd. Just study the fiqh portion of it, not the aqidah portion. I have a question, and it's that, like, I always had this, not because of the book itself I say that, but because of the people who are teaching it in Westbourne Park. I have a question, and it's that, like, I always had this when I was young. When we are praying back of the Imam and he's reading Quran, we're supposed to be quiet and read what he's reading. No, you be quiet and listen to the Imam when he's reciting and don't read along. What's the rule on kissing the hand of the pious person in the Maliki school? He disliked it. Yes, he disliked these extracurriculars. But if it's, I wonder what he would have said if it's a urf amongst the people. Like, it developed as a custom. Allah knows best about that. But he did not like those extracurriculars when it comes to honorifics, excessive honorifics and stuff, etc. How do we benefit from the Ba'alawi? You go to muwasala.org, you go to their website and you start reciting those awrad, listening to those lectures and doing those dhikrs. Muwasala.org. Zaib can put it in here. I don't think about, he says, I don't think simply talking about Khilafa and not gathering them, organizing them will give any results. Please share your thoughts. Organizing what? And organize. Yeah, you can have meetings and conferences, but what are you going to do in those meetings and conferences? Talk. That's why I said talk. Because the Prophet did not, the Prophet say, change the wrong with your hand. If not, then with your tongue. If not, then with your heart. And that's the weakest of faith, meaning that's the weakest status that you could be in. So you can't change something with your hand. Are you going to overthrow a government? Sure, you're going to have gatherings. What are you going to do in these gatherings? Talk. So you and I are saying the same thing. You can talk about something. That's what the power that you have right now, the power to write and to talk. And if you're living in the Emirates, you don't even have that power. Soon enough, they're going to know what's in your heart and put you in jail too. Prophet ﷺ didn't marry women from the Ansar. It was not their urf. I think that's what they said. Yeah, it wasn't their urf and they didn't like it. Allah knows best. It was not their custom, I believe. Okay. Why did Ibn Qudama say the Ash'ari are Zanadiqa? I don't know. I did not know the specific saying of his, and he's not the he is a great scholar, and maybe he's talking about specific Ash'ari, or he misunderstood their saying, or he's simply wrong. Simple as that. But I don't know that specific statement, so I can't comment on it. How do you remove arrogance and ignorance from the heart? Mingle with a lot of people until you realize you're not that big of a deal. You mingle with people. You hang out with all sorts of different people until you realize that I'm actually very ignorant. I don't know a lot of things, and I'm not a big deal. That's why praying in the Jum'ah, if you always go to the mosque and you always pray, from the corner of your eyes you see someone better than me at money, better than me in family, better than me in looks, better than me in social, he's more popular, better than me in knowledge, better than me in deen. The more you go to the masjid and just pray once a day in the Jama'ah, over the years, that stuff etches away. And then every time you have relationships, the relationship break up. Why? Because of arrogance. So you realize, I don't know, and if I'm going to have any friends, I need to trim up my personality a little bit. Sunni, what's your view of Sunni ruled countries being somewhat silent, not somewhat, 100% silent on what's happening, but the Shia being the ones speaking against Israel genocide and of Palestine? Pitiful, pathetic and pitiful. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. Maliki gets condemned for doing sadl and get called a Shia for leaving his hand on his sides in salah. There's not need to get yourself into those. You can pray qabd if that's going to happen. Advise a person addicted to some prohibited deeds. How can you get out of this habit? Practical advice. Well, the first thing is belief that Allah Ta'ala can remove me from this. And then don't give it so much attention. Yes, it is an addiction. It sounds like my number one priority should be to stop this addiction. Yeah, that's true. But you cannot let shaitan get your mind so hooked on this. Rather, hook your mind on something else, like praying in the masjid Jum'ah. Little by little, or joining a hifz group, or joining a fiqh class, or joining any group that's doing some good deeds. Put your focus elsewhere and let that grow. And when your iman grows with that deed, the other one will die off. From the ideas of addiction is that you always think about it. And that's not good. And rather what you think about the power of Allah. And shaitan ultimately wants you to disbelieve in the power of Allah. Is it me, or is just like literally no use of this air conditioner today? It's literally valueless today. What's going on?
I think it's maybe because of the plants.
Yeah. Blocking.
Shayajib, I'm just gonna keep changing the setting. I mean, I feel the air, but I'm feeling warm air.
I feel like also putting yourself in a hole. Like,
What's
you
that?
think of something as an addiction.
It's gonna grow.
Keep growing it in your brain as an
Yeah.
addiction.
Mm-hmm. Layth Newton, would you talk about Jake the metaphysician about Ash'ari Aqidah? Probably not. I mean, Jake and I, we go back many years. He's around here, and we have a good relationship and everything. Not all my friends have a good relationship with him, but that's besides the point. But he's always been very nice personally to me. But the reason I wouldn't is that that's not the issue of the day, in my personal opinion. Khalq af'al al-ibad, things like that. Are the Asha'ira the majority of the Ummah or not in the past, is not the subject that I want to give attention to right now. I might answer the question, but to give attention to it as a big topic and a big debate would seem to me that you're losing focus on what's actually bigger and more important. If it were peacetime and we agree on everything and we have no enemies, then yeah, we could go at it for that. But I feel that it's not a thing. And secondly, it's not a thing that I want to focus attention to. But I have my beliefs on it, which is not my beliefs. Literally just repeating the belief of the Ash'ari Imams. We're muqallid here. And hopefully fuqaha, the faqih, knows the evidences and understands the evidences of the mujtahid Imams. The muqallid just repeats what the mujtahid said. The faqih, he knows a lot of the rulings and he knows a lot of the evidences. And hopefully we can become fuqaha. But mujtahids in imams, they're in the past. Khalas. There's not going to be new ijtihad in these old matters discussed already. There's a Hindu girl wants to become Muslim, want to marry a Muslim, but scared knowing her parents will kick her out. Well, she needs Muslims to support her, sisters to support her in her conversion. Can we distance ourselves from a narcissistic and abusive parent? You can avoid harm, but you don't officially cut them off. You just avoid their harm and you keep their ties where they're not harming you. Okay. The Mahdi on YouTube, what you think? Building Mario, are you 12 or 11? Is it a statement or a question? The Mahdi on YouTube, what you think? Is it summertime and the kids are off from school? So building Mario, what do I think of what? What did you say exactly? You said a phrase. The Mahdi on YouTube is not even a sentence. It's a phrase, right? A sentence requires a subject, an object, and a verb. So anyway, bring your question again. Can I dye my beard black? If your hair was black, you don't dye your hair the same exact color as it was, black. So you could dye it dark brown. When you pray nafilah in a moving car, you don't have to follow the qibla. You pray sitting down and you just move your head lower for ruku' and even lower for sujood. But only nafila can be prayed in the car. Can fard ever be prayed in the car? La.
Actually, I have a question about in the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Do we, what's the Maliki opinion on praying on the plane?
Playing on the plane is different upon. It's different upon.
It's not on the ground, right? It's not.
Well, it's not the it's the standing. Also, it's the ground is one issue, but the standing is a more bigger issue.
So what would you do if you're? If
I pray standing if the Saudi Airlines and they have a musalla in the back, for example. You pray standing. When you have a lot of Muslims on, like Emirates Airline, they understand. They let you pray standing in small groups, even. And other than that, I pray sitting in the chair. But then many ulama say it's mandub to repeat it when you get down. Because you were sitting, you weren't... What'd you do? You fixed it.
It was on. It was showing heat.
Heat.
Yeah.
That's why guys touch them. I'm taking the remote with me. I'm taking it home. Guys, go to dtsworldtravel.com. Umrah for youth with Sheikh Nuh Saunders. And even non-youth show up to it. Okay. All right, ladies, we got to wrap up right here. We'll pray Dhuhr, take our Tasawwuf class, and then I'm going to check out... you want to come with me? You free today?
Yeah.
I'm going to check out a shredder, a book shredder. I've had it with people dropping off Islamic books to the masjid. Like ripped up book of tafsir in Urdu. Ripped up masahif. What do I do with this? Right? We made a fire one time. The fire department came because the smoke was black. We asked the guys to dig one time. They're like, oh, don't ask us to dig a hole again and put the masahif in there again. Too tired. So we're going to get from an old and retire. I guess he's a retired. I don't know why he has this, but it's it shreds branches and stuff. Yeah. So I said, can I put a hardcover book in this? He said, yeah. He said, bring it and test it. So we're gonna go test it. If it's good, I'm buying it. I'm done. I'm finished. I'll make up the money. I'll recoup the money later. Right? I'm done. I'm totally finished with this subject of books everywhere in the masjid. I can't do this anymore. And in my own family and home and libraries, where boxes of books that no one's gonna ever want to read. Like the cover is nice and it looks like this, right? You're like, oh, wow, this is a great Islamic text. When you look at the title, it's like Family Matters in Islam, PhD thesis, 1995. It looks like a Turathi book, and then it turns out to be like some book that written by a doctor so-and-so, PhD thesis. I don't need this, right? There's literally time. It may be a great book, but there's no time for people to read those types of books. No one's gonna read it. So we have to fix this. How does a Talib ilm beat the waswas of not believing in themselves that they could do it, says Zayd Ali. You accept that belief. You will not do it. Allah Ta'ala will do it for you. Meaning, if you put in the work, Allah takes you to the destination. You put in the work. You get to the bus station, walk to the bus station, buy the ticket, pay the price, pack the bags, pack your snacks. You do the work, Allah takes you to the destination. So the amal is from us, but the fath is from Allah Ta'ala. This is in everything. A man says, I can't get married. No, I don't think anyone would love me. Yes, someone could love you. If Allah says kun fayakun, they're going to love you. The most 10 out of 10 woman that you can imagine, and you're like a mid. You're like a 4.5 to 5, maximum 6 if you work hard. And she's a 10, right? If Allah says be in it is, she's going to love you. And it's not going to make any sense to anybody. But Allah Ta'ala will create within you the asbab, the reasons that will make her love you. And she will love you, right? That's just how the Muslim works. We don't need to learn tricks. I don't need to go learn female psychology. I don't need to learn all this nonsense, right? I just need to be myself, be abd of Allah. Yeah, you should learn psychology of people, how to deal with people. Not the tricks of to how to get them to like you, but just you should learn the psychology of what makes you a likable person, what would make you an attractive suitor. So again, we do the work, but Allah Ta'ala is in charge of the hearts. Not Allah say the hearts are between the two fingers of Allah. He turns them how He wishes. If Allah wants to turn a 10 to fall in love with a 6, He can do it. Kun fayakun. Right? And if Allah Ta'ala wants to did not Allah Ta'ala say, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً? He put mercy and mawadda and rahmah between you two. So I don't need to learn tricks related to women. I just need to be myself. Work at everything that makes you valuable, but be a slave of Allah and ask Allah Ta'ala, this is what I'm going for. I'm shooting for that. And Allah loves for those who ask big. إِذَا سَأَلْتُمْ فَعَظِمُوا الْمَسْأَلَةِ. If you ask something great. Do not say, oh Allah, I'm a mid. Give me another mid. Right? No. Ask for something great. And Allah gives it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullah.
شفا